My dad would always have a baseball bat near the door.
A 9mm between my mattress and the box spring.
Locking the doors and rechecking it.
I kind of thought that was normal.
He was obsessed about
my
that sort of
wife was
thing.
complaining about my nightmares.
I could never wake
Hearing a
him.
helicopter overhead would bring flashbacks.
It started getting to be more
It's
frequent.
just Nam again, he would say. It's just Vietnam again.
A man sits on the front step of a house. Titles: A PTSD Case Study. David Hanson, U.S. Air Force, 1967 to 1971. A blue sky is viewed through a web of leaves and branches. Hanson.
One night, I heard somebody running through the wood floor on our entryway to the house to the kitchen. And I got up, I went to the stairwell. I saw two Vietnamese, what we call zappers, run across the hallway. They were naked except for a diaper-like device, and they wore a lot of those for fear of the cloth getting caught in a wire or something like that. And I saw them run across that floor. It was so real.
He closes his eyes.
I went up to the kitchen, and I sat on the kitchen floor. I was scared. I was mad. I was tired of this crap, and I had this knife in my hand. And that was about as close as I could get to thinking about suicide.
Titles: Dave contacted the Veterans Crisis Line. He agreed to go to the emergency room at his local VA that night. Wife, Lindy.
Yes, I knew that he had all this pent-up frustration and anger and sadness about Vietnam, but I just had no idea how bad it was.
To know that he had all that inside him and never said anything.
Daughter, Corey Hintzman.
No, I just didn't expect to cry. And so my mom and my sister and I essentially just told him, like, you know, we're here for you. You just let us know what you want us to do or how we can help. And he said, you know, this is really something I have to do for myself.
Titles: Dave was evaluated and diagnosed with PTSD. He was assigned a PTSD therapist.
I think my first impression of him was
Jackie Holland.
because he is so intelligent and articulate, he was very good at masking what was probably a lot of pain below the surface. I think that's something he was probably very practiced at.
You want me to be honest? My first impression was, wow, she's really young. And could she really understand what I was going through? One. Two, she was very pretty. Could she really understand what I was going through?
And it took a bit of effort to ask the right questions to help him see how bothered he was, even after an event as extreme as the one that brought him into care.
Very, very quickly in our first meeting, it became evident that her reasoning for being there was to help me. And that became very evident very, very quickly.
It was such a relief to know that somebody cared enough to want to try and do something.
Titles: Dave started a therapy called prolonged exposure, or PE. Early on in the process, he was given an exercise called imaginal exposure.
The imaginal exposures are where a person tells their trauma narrative. They tell it several times within about 45 minutes of our 90-minute session. We record those narratives, and then we have the patient listen to them at home on a daily basis.
Listen to it again, and a third, and a fourth, and a fifth, and a 10th time. And then the second night, and the third night, and the fourth night.
We repeat and repeat and repeat until the emotion is worn out.
That was extremely hard.
Title: Next, Dave worked with Jackie on his in vivo exposures.
In vivo exposures are the in-life exposures where we identify specific behavioral avoidance, and we create a hierarchy from easiest to hardest and have the veteran practice going into usually a situation that they normally would avoid, staying in that situation until their distress peaks and then comes down, and then trying it again the next day.
He would watch maybe a war movie, but it was really, really difficult. He would be sobbing and crying, and it affected him very deeply.
The first movie that I watched was Good Morning Vietnam. And that's a pretty docile movie except for one explosion point. My SUDS levels skyrocketed at that.
Title: SUDS equals subjective units of distress.
But by watching that specific segment again, and then again and again, became very easy to do. My levels went from 80-90% down to 40-50% after the fifth or sixth time of watching that. And I thought to myself, that's success. I can feel that. Wow.
I thought, watching more war movies, I just couldn't understand it. It sounded crazy to me. But now I can see the importance of it, and I can just see what a difference it was really made for him.
The SUDS levels, my anxiety levels came down, and it felt so good. It was unbelievable.
A crescent moon is in the night sky.
Jackie knew that my first several months in Vietnam was involved with a night ambush team actually in the bush. So we would go out at 9, 10 o'clock at night, come in at 4 in the morning. I was supposed to go into my woods and stand there.
He stands on a second-floor deck.
I got to the end of the garage, and I froze. I couldn't go into the woods. I just couldn't do it.
He said it was kind of scary, so I was wondering whether he would do it again and again and again, but he did.
The second night, I stood there for maybe 5 minutes, and I walked into the woods at night for the first time in 25 years that we lived there.
In the woods, a tree trunk is viewed closely.
I stood there by a tree, and I looked directly at the tree trunk so that I wouldn't notice any other movement around me. But I was listening intently, because when you're in the jungle in Vietnam, you use whatever you can use to gain a leg up on whoever is out there. And I didn't really hear anything. My anxiety levels, after about a half an hour, came from 70, 80 down to about 40 or 50. And that was the first success that I felt that second night.
Corey.
I don't know what made him go with such gusto over the homework. He really wanted it, and I think he knew you couldn't skimp on that. And I know it was hard, but I was glad for us that he did it.
He stares in the woods.
I saw him be more relaxed, and each night that he did it, I could tell it was getting easier and easier, and then I didn't worry about it anymore.
The third night I went out, anxiety levels were not as high, and they came down more quickly. And the fourth night and the fifth night even more so. When I went out into the woods the sixth night, my anxiety levels were normal. And again, it felt like absolute success.
Jackie.
What's fabulous about these therapies is that if you do them and you finish them, you will benefit. But if you throw yourself in the way that Dave did, the magnitude of your benefit is so much greater.
I walked in to our 6th week meeting. Jackie asked how that all went, and I told her exactly what happened and exactly what I did. My thought was, I'm going to ask her if I'm done. And there was a pause, and she said, David, do you think you're done? And I said, yes, I am. And that was the last time I saw her. I'm done.
He stands with Lindy outside their house.
I'm amazed at how things have turned out. We have a different life now. It's different. We're like average, normal people that can go to bed and sleep and not have to deal with nightmares every night.
I feel like I know my dad a lot better. We talked a lot, but it was a more superficial talk. And now when we talk, sometimes it's the normal everyday chit chat. And sometimes it's a really deeper, meaningful conversation. And we would have never had that 5 years ago.
Since that day, that's a little over 4 years, I have not had one flashback. I've not had any nightmares. I've not had any bad dreams. I do hear unusual noises, but I don't get up and go hunting for it. I just go back to sleep. I don't have any issues walking through our woods at night. It's been totally freeing.
Credits. Special thanks to the participants for sharing their story. David Hanson, Lindy Hanson, Corey Hintzman, Jackie Wright Holland, LICSW. They all gather in front of a photo backdrop. Lindy puts her arms around David and Corey, while Jackie smiles on David's other side. Credits. About Face and National Center for PTSD, Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder.